Follow, follow, follow our Brazilian Magnifico. There's nobody better than Lucas Paqueta, and now he's one of our own. What a week. West Ham United have had 8 goals scored, just 1 conceded, through to a European semi-final and thrashed Bournemouth 4-0 away in the Premier League to go 13th and all but confirm our safety. Any of you going, oh, don't jinx it, leave it out. I've known we've been safe all along. We're definitely safe. Now, what a 7-day period it has been, driven on, of course, by that main man, the Brazilian maestro, Lucas Paqueta. What a performance from him in the Europa Conference League and then again at the Vitality on Sunday. I was lucky enough to be at both games, and frankly, West Ham United were absolutely fantastic. I'm not going to lie and say I haven't enjoyed it on Twitter this week, where I haven't been doing it myself, but a few of the very small amount of Moyes apologists, when things were looking pretty bleak a few weeks ago, have been doing a lot of I told you soing to fellow fans. And you know what? Those who are more vocal against David Moyes, it doesn't sort of completely undo all the poor form that's gone before. But, you know, if you listen to some people over the last month or so, you'd think all hope was completely lost. And I think there is an element of vindication from David Moyes. He took a more direct route at Bournemouth after a sloppy start against Gent as well. It didn't look great, but we've really come into our own. We're really seeing some proper fight, passion and desire from the West Ham players, whether that's come from the manager, whether that's come from the squad, or whether it's come from the cleaner at the training ground. I don't really care. This is what me and James and so many other West Ham fans have been crying out for a while. A bit of fight, passion and desire mixed in with the quality that we have got on show. That is an absolutely fantastic 7-day period for West Ham. I've been humming the Lucas Paqueta song. And of course, one more year, Declan Rice. Ever since I left the Vitality on Sunday afternoon, I really feel good. I haven't felt this good and positive about West Ham basically all season. I'm joined today by James Jones, as I always am. Jonesy, wonderful to have you with me once again. I'll be honest, mate, you couldn't come to the Vitality on Sunday because you were being a good, upstanding, honest family man, which is exactly what you are. And you pledged to stick to the plans you had with your wife and your son. You went to the Duxford Air Museum. I've been to the Duxford Air Museum before, mate, when I was a kid. It was, you know, perfectly wonderful. All the big airplanes are amazing. The history, all the stories you hear are superb. But I do think, mate, that you dropped a bit of a clanger because watching West Ham win away 4-0 doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, I did. It did cross my mind when we raced into a 3-goal lead, and I was just like, I was able to crack out the, I can't believe it, we're flying at the Duxford Airfield, which,
God.
Which, yeah, I mean,
did anyone laugh?
I did. But
yeah, no, of course you did. Yeah.
I mean, I can get away with it. Dad jokes, you can get away with it when you're a dad. You can get away with dad jokes when you're a dad, I suppose. But yeah, I'm not gutted because I had a good day all the same. I had a great day at Duxford Airfield. I had a great day spending time with my wife and son, but also seeing the updates of West Ham winning 4-0 away at Bournemouth, and also seeing the updates of Tottenham absolutely falling apart in St James's Park, which was absolutely sensational for me. So it was a great Sunday, even though I wasn't there to see it in person.
Well, I'll be honest, James, I've never, ever been in an away end and celebrated 10 goals, which is exactly what I did on Sunday afternoon. Those around me, just getting the phones out, it was unbelievable. Like West Ham, as you mentioned, raced into a 3-0 lead. They were excellent. It was an excellent start. We'll get on to the, breaking the game down in more detail in the first section. We'll look back to the Gent game as well. It was a phenomenal start. We race into a 3-0 lead within 43 minutes after the first goal goes in 5 minutes in. We're 2-0 up after 12 minutes. I was like, this is absolutely incredible. Meanwhile, up at St James's Park, Tottenham were completely falling to bits. Honestly, it was like, like if Carlsberg did Days Out.
Yeah.
It was just one of them. It was absolutely brilliant. But look, I mean, the demise of Tottenham and the complete shambles that is the North Londoners at the moment will be funny, of course, to lots of fans. I think we could probably include lots of the We Are West Ham listeners in that as well. Certainly one of my colleagues at work, I won't name him, but he is a West Ham supporter. Absolutely just walked in today wetting himself laughing. Like, had no one even said anything to him yet. He just walked in. I mean, what a day. This is one of the best Monday mornings, I would argue, West Ham fans have had all season. But, you know, the Tottenham thing's funny, but to focus on our own club for a minute, Jonesy, talk me through how you feel at the end of that week, because it's, in my eyes, I'm not overly surprised by it, but I think it certainly made me feel loads calmer about the Premier League and even more excited than I was about the Conference League, because as we've said all along, all we want really is safety, and then we can focus on the Conference League, which is what I've wanted. And I feel like after that statement win at Bournemouth, that's really what we've got. I think we're all but safe.
Yeah, I think we're all but safe. I said last week probably takes 2 more wins. I think we just need 1 more win now. If you look at the other results that went over the weekend, but you say you're not surprised. I'm surprised at how comfortable both of those wins were. I'm surprised at how we've just suddenly switched it on a little bit. I felt quietly confident that we'd scrape both games and win both games. But I didn't for the life of me think that they would be as comfortable as they ended up being. I know it started a little bit poorly on Thursday night against Gent, and we had to come back into that 8 minutes in the second half. We were just superb. But I just didn't see 4-0, 3-0 up inside, 20 minutes against Bournemouth. Didn't see that at all. I thought, given the form that they're in, the results that they've had recently, I thought it was going to be a tough old slog. Probably another scrape a 1-0 win away from home via an own goal type win. But it's like watching West Ham of last season and the season before again. All of a sudden, and it just seems like we're hitting the right type of form at the right time of the season when it matters most. Last year it was the opposite. We fell out of form just when it mattered most. We were brilliant all season, and then just as we get the semi-finals, it all fell apart. Yeah, we've now got to the semi-finals, and it's all falling back together again all of a sudden. And for me, it's really exciting because suddenly you're like, if we continue playing like this, no one's going to beat us. Maybe City. Other than that, I don't see anyone beating us if we continue like that. I mean, I'm not saying we're going to go in unbeaten for the rest of the season.
In the Premier League?
But honestly, like if we continue with that type of form, it'll be difficult to beat us. I'm not saying that we will go unbeaten. I'm not by any means, by any stretch.
It feels like that's sort of what you're saying, mate.
But we've got a massive chance now. We've got a massive, massive chance to probably even in bigger chance, given the form we're in, to go and win that trophy. And to finish as high up the table as we possibly can. I think we're safe. And I think we've probably got a better chance now in that trophy than we did 7 days ago. Yeah,
I mean, it feels... I mean, I started this podcast and went hard early. I didn't expect you to take it up a notch, quite frankly.
I didn't see it coming. Didn't see it coming.
No, I mean, but you said you fancied us to sneak a 1-0 win. I'll be honest, mate. I didn't at all. I sort of... I mean, I'm fairly pessimistic the last... results-wise, the last few weeks anyway. But I just thought Bournemouth have been playing really well to beat Tottenham, Liverpool and Fulham in the last sort of 6 weeks or whatever it was. Not that, and there's probably reasons for all three of those. Fulham perhaps being on the beach, Liverpool and Tottenham aren't, and not the Liverpool and Tottenham of a couple of seasons ago. But I just sort of felt that they were coming into some good form as well. And I was going there thinking, you know what, if I'm walking away from the stadium later on, driving back up to London with a 1-1 draw, I'll be pretty all right with that. I'll be pretty, not overly satisfied. But to go there and put on a performance like that, mate, is absolutely brilliant. And I was just such passionate desire. Paqueta's goal, the header, was the one that did it for me. Absolutely was the one that did it for me. Really good work down the right-hand side. The ball's looped up in the air. And it's one of them. It's like, defender's got that. But no, he wasn't having it. He just steams in, showed proper desire to get there, leapt like a salmon, heads it down, and that really felt to me that was the difference. The quality was there, and the early goals obviously gave the boys confidence, which was great. Bournemouth didn't do a lot, but I don't want to hear that Bournemouth weren't very good. We made it impossible. We knocked the stuffing out of them before they'd even rubbed their eyes and woken up in the game. And obviously the Gent one you mentioned there, start wasn't great, but it's brilliant, mate. I think I really enjoyed both of those two games I've been to this week. And I think, as I was mentioning, Adam Brown, who I've had a few Twitter exchanges with recently, made the point, a good point to me when I was sort of sticking up for Moyes somewhat on the radio a couple of weeks ago. And he just said, all of those points might be okay, but I just want to go and look forward to watching games again and enjoy watching West Ham again. And I get that. And that is exactly what I've done the last couple of games. Gent and Bournemouth was absolutely brilliant. And I really feel that's going to push on. I'm not saying we'll win all of our games, which it appears that you might be.
No, I didn't say that.
But, I'm not saying we'll beat Liverpool in the week. Necessarily sure about that. I don't suppose we'll beat City. We'll struggle against United probably. But we're safe. We are definitely safe. No doubt about it. There's no way we don't beat at least either one of Leeds, Leicester. We've still got Tottenham to play. Who knows what? We've still got Tottenham to play. Still got Brentford to play. We don't really know if they'll still be fighting for stuff. Palace, they're they're out of it. They're in trouble. Not really a lot to play for. Definitely get enough. I'm just really good. Feel really good. I'm really looking forward to doing the podcast as well this week, Jonesy, which does make a change. Other than the Duxford Air Museum, then anything else exciting going on in your life? Any updates?
No, just that, mate. I think just watched Declan Rice's goal against Gent about 4,000 times since Thursday night.
Yeah, I wonder against Bournemouth weren't bad, mate.
It was good, but it's the commentary on Thursday night that did it for me. Here come the hammers. Right. Just superb. But other than that, not a great deal going on. Found out today. It looks like I'm going back to Montreal for work in a couple of weeks.
Huge.
Which is good. But other than that, just the usual stuff. What about you?
One thing I did like, I will answer your inquiry in a minute. One thing I did like, as we were trying to set up for the podcast, was you spending, I would say, 2 to 3 minutes trying to work out how to turn off your Alexa so it doesn't interrupt us. And then only upon my suggestion of why don't you just ask it to go on Do Not Disturb, did the light bulb click in your head. And that is exactly what you did. And that was the answer to the problems rather than pressing buttons and Googling how to turn it off.
Yeah, that was quite embarrassing. Actually, another embarrassing thing happened to me recently. On Saturday, Luce and Harrison had gone back to London because for a kid's birthday party, one of our friends' kids. So Saturday afternoon, I was like, what should I do? Do you know what? I'll go to the pub and watch the FA Cup City be Sheffield United. I thought I'd try a different pub that I've not been to.
Yeah.
Knew it showed the football, so I thought I'd go in there and have a little see what it's all about. And walked in, and there's a step by the bar, and I stepped down and absolutely stacked it in front of all the locals.
Oh, like what? We're talking hands and knees, or
close. I mean, I did well. I did well not to go. I rolled my ankle a little bit. Styled it out to the point where I was at the bar, in absolute agony, but trying not to show that I was in absolute agony.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I heard some guy shout out, "Well, just step." And I was just like, do I not? And I was just like, oh, no, what do I do? Everyone's like looking at each other laughing, going, who's this geezer here?
Yeah.
Never been in there before in my life. And sort of a barman come over. He was looking at me as if like, what are you doing, mate? Like,
yeah. How pissed are you?
And I was just like, oh, I'll have a pint, please, mate. And then sort of through gritted teeth.
Did you even had a drink?
No.
Is that like as you rocked up to the bar?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And I was half expecting to go, I think you've had enough, haven't you, mate?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was quite embarrassing. And while I was having that first beer, I spent the entirety of that first beer debating whether I should leave after that beer or stay and hang about. And does it look bad if I leave straight away, or if I hang about, are they going to be like, surely you should go home?
Yeah.
And I decided to stay, and I watched the game, and it wasn't mentioned again, but people were giving me the eye again as the game fell over earlier.
Yeah.
So yeah, a bit embarrassing for me. Might not ever go back there again.
No, I was going to say that. I was just going to ask you what's your future plans as far as that pub goes. Is that just off the radar forever?
Yeah, it's annoying because it's quite a good little pub. Shows the football.
Yeah.
And I like a pub that's like a proper locals pub.
Yeah.
So it's a bit heartbreaking, really, because
you'll always be known as that guy, though, won't you?
The guy
Even
that
if
fell
you
over,
yeah, you could be there for like 30 years, and you'd be one of the regulars, but you'd always be like the geezer who stacked it that time.
Exactly.
Amazing.
So, never again.
Glad I pressed you a little bit more, mate. No, I've got a quite a bad cold. And I just had to walk home from the station in the rain in time to get back to do the podcast. Outside of that, I had a really good day on Sunday. I played golf on Saturday poorly in Epping. No, really not a lot to report. I'm going on a stag do to Cardiff this weekend. So I'm sort of looking forward to that. I'm hoping my cold shifts, and I am playing on the pitch at West Ham on Friday, actually, which will be very exciting indeed. So I'm hoping my cold shifts before all of those things. A lot to look forward to, mate. Obviously, the Liverpool game on Wednesday as well, but let's get into it a little bit more. Just a reminder what's coming up on the show tonight. Me and James are going to look back to the Gent game first of all, and then that Bournemouth win in Section 1. We've got 2 opposition views for you this week. I believe, Jonesy, before looking ahead to the Liverpool game is...
Henry Jackson from This Is Anfield.
Excellent. And then after that, we have got Max Matthews, sports journalist and huge Crystal Palace fan, looking ahead to the weekend's trip to Selhurst Park. Then you'll have some final thoughts, as always, from me and Jonesy. So lots to look back on, lots to look forward to. Don't forget, you can follow us on social media. On Twitter, we're at @WeAre_West Ham. On our personal accounts are at William Pugh _ James is at by James Jones. Lost my blue tick, James. Is yours gone?
Me too. Yeah, mine's gone. Yeah. Woke up Saturday morning and felt incredibly naked and exposed.
Yeah.
It's not nice.
Just felt different. Yeah. But we're legacy blue tickers, aren't we? So
yeah, and
we were famous. We were famous when it was. Huh?
The podcast has got a blue tick now.
That's because we're paying for it.
Yeah, but one door closes and one opens and all that.
Exactly. Well, that is true, mate. Yeah, I suppose we just couldn't. Neither of us could bear to be without a blue tick, so we just had to whack on the podcast account because it's tax deductible. No, that's quite right, James. We're on Instagram as well at We Are. No, we're not. We're a We Are West Ham Pod on Instagram. We're on YouTube. Just search We Are West Ham Podcast, and you can email us if you so wish, at wearewesthampod@gmail.com. Loads have been getting in touch recently. Both of us have been trying to reply where we can, but we've been enjoying the additional interaction with all of you. So get us on socials or the emails if you fancy it. And don't forget, you can buy us a pint if you want. Lots of you have done that before. And if you want to do it again, you can. If you want to do it for the first time, that would be nice too. That's buymeacoffee.com/We Are West Ham, and the money goes directly to me and James. We only ever spend it on actual beers or podcast equipment or guest fees, whatever, just to make the show better for you. It's not going on extravagant holidays or anything really. It just goes on lagers or stuff to make the show better. So that's buymeacoffee.com/We Are West Ham if you fancy buying Jonesy and I a pint. We appreciate everyone who's done that so far, and everyone who's thinking about it from now on. Jonesy, any more housekeeping bits I've missed? I don't think so. Oh, the voice notes. How are they going? You can voice note us after every game, speakpipe.com. We need to be pushing that a little bit more. I was supposed to do mine after Bournemouth and I forgot. So
we've not... I didn't actually do a tweet after the Bournemouth game, but we didn't get anything after the game, so we would like people to get involved in that because the first one went down quite well, but we've not had anything since the first one after the Fulham game, so we want more of that.
Exactly, yeah, quite onus on us to actually tell people you can do it, I guess. So busy show coming up. That's all the housekeeping, I think. All the links to all the stuff I've mentioned there is in the description to this podcast. And yeah, stay with us. Exciting show coming up because West Ham scored 8 goals and only conceded 1 since we last spoke. Jonesy, I want to start first of all. We'll look into those games a little bit more, but it's a question we were asking every week when things were bad. So I feel like we should still ask it now things are good. West Ham have scored 8 goals in the last week, 10 in their last 3 games, 11 in their last 4. We haven't lost for flipping ages since that absolute embarrassment at home to Newcastle. Before that, we hadn't lost since the 4th of March away to Brighton. It's actually been really good results-wise recently, despite what some of the more vocal Moyes out brigade might have you believe on social media in particular. I find it hard to, not feel absolutely delighted about what's happened. And I know you sort of probably a little bit more surprised than I am, but I think we need to ask the question, the David Moyes question or David Moyes situation now. You made quite an interesting point a few weeks ago, which seemed to spark some debate. Danny Murphy even wrote a column about it in the Daily Mail after you mentioned it, that you don't think David Moyes will be in the manager's hot seat at the end of next season. Sorry, at the beginning of next season, regardless what happens. What's your stance on the Moyes situation after the recent results, but particularly the last week?
I've been thinking about this a lot over the last 24 hours or so, because the difference between now and then, obviously, just 1 defeat in 10, you can't ignore that type of form. But particularly over the last 3 games, we'll include the Arsenal game in that because it was a good performance, particularly in the second half. Initially, it was I can't see him staying regardless because the style of football is just not going to take us forward long term.
Yeah.
Now
scored 10 goals in 3 games.
And like we were panicking every time we got in the final third. We were struggling to score goals. We weren't set pieces weren't as effective as they had been. Players out of form, players being played out of position, big money players at that, and it's like. Even if he wins a trophy, I can't see him ever turning this around to the point where everyone's going to be genuinely happy about turning up to West Ham every week. But the last 3 games has made me wonder, well, hang on, right, we're now beginning to see a West Ham that we were absolutely delighted with only 12 months ago. And David Moyes was an absolute hero. He was a god. He could do no wrong. He wins. That's what he does, And now I'm thinking, well, if we continue this type of form between now and the end of the season, win a trophy, get to the final, lose, whatever, there's an argument to go, well, maybe he has turned it around and maybe he does deserve another summer of recruitment to see whether he can continue what maybe it was just a blip for the first 2/3 of the season. Because of injuries and players being a little bit out of form and out of confidence. And it wasn't, and he was almost, some might say, he was almost forced into playing negatively in some games just in order to try and grind out results during those periods where players were
definitely
out of confidence and stuff like that. So it's a bit of a dilemma because there's an argument for both ways now. I didn't think there was before, but now I think there is. And I'm swaying towards I wouldn't be surprised if they did stick with him.
I'll be honest, James. I don't know if you saw it, but ahead of the Sunday's game, David Moyes said in his pre-match press conference he's planning for next season already, and the word coming out of David Sullivan and the board is that the manager's position will be reviewed at the end of the season, as it is every club at the end of every season. Some reviews, at Man City, for example, don't take very long. You go, right, we're pleased with Pep. Yeah, we're still won the Premier League for the 900th year in a row. We're still one of the best teams on the planet. Yeah, we'll keep Pep, sure. Yeah. Other teams might, the meetings might last a bit longer.
Unless you're at Watford, it happens every week, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A weekly managerial review at the Vicarage Road. Yeah. So this year, the David Moyes one, it might take a little bit longer, the review. However, the word out of the club at the moment is from the highest level, is that, they fully expect David Moyes to see out his contract. I think we said a couple of, perhaps even last week, that to do that, he has to win the Conference League. I'm still of that opinion. We play AZ Alkmaar, who are fourth in the Dutch league, playing some good football, but a fourth in the Dutch league. And it looks like we're likely to get Fiorentina, who are 10th in the Serie A, or Basel, who are 7th of 12 in the Swiss league. So I would say he has to win the Europa Conference League. I've got no reason to think that he won't. But I think that has to happen. There needed to be an upturn in the Premier League as well, and it has. Where's the benefit of getting rid of it? I don't know. I think people, a lot of people have decided, right? I think the quiet majority of West Ham fans, no, I'm not going to say majority, but a significant section of fans who are just quiet, who don't ramble on their own podcast like we do every week, who haven't got a Twitter account, but who just go to games and talk about it to their friends and family and workmates. I think a lot of people are in the middle zone. Do you know what I mean? Fairly centrist. You go, it's been pretty rubbish this year, but he's not the worst thing since sliced bread. He's done well before, and if we see a pickup, it would be all right if he was the manager at the beginning of next season.
Yeah. I mean, I'd made my mind up only a few weeks ago. I was like, I don't see a future with him as our manager, regardless of what happens between now and the end of the season. I'm beginning to be swayed a little bit if the style and the form continues as the way we've seen it, in particular in the last two games. It's made me wonder whether, like I said before, whether it has been a bad season because there's been a cocktail of really unfortunate events that have worked against us. Yeah. And the fact that we've now almost reverted to form under him that we've been so used to seeing, which is why we were so surprised that we've had such a bad season, makes me wonder whether that is actually the case. And what I don't want to see, and which is what's kind of been upset me a little bit over the last few months when we've been heavily debating his future. I don't want to see him leave under bitter circumstances. Whenever it happens,
yeah.
I mean, a lot of people say, "Well, there's no room for like nostalgia and all that," but we have to remember that what David Moyes has done for our football club since he took over has been nothing short of ridiculous, really. If you, in terms
Absolutely.
of, he took over. We were bottom three or one or outside the bottom three on goal difference. And then we went into COVID, difficult circumstances. He kept us up, and then two back-to-back top seven finishes, a Europa League semi-final, now a Conference League semi-final.
Yeah.
We never saw this coming 3 years ago, and now here we are again for the second season running, going we could win a European trophy.
Yeah.
No manager's done that for West Ham in a modern
Not even close, mate.
So
Slaven Bilic had one good season. Alan Pardew had one good season, 1.5.
So
Glenn Roeder, one.
It would upset me if he left under bitter circumstances, because I think he deserves better than that, given what he's achieved at the football club in the 3 years he's been with us, or the 2.5, whatever is it, 3 years, 3.5 years, or whatever it is. And yeah, that's why I'm thinking, well, if he wins it, if I were him, if he wins it, resign. Like,
let's be right. Let's just get
he's
straight. People don't resign in football anymore. You've got 1 year contract, you'll get a payoff.
Yeah, but I mean, you've got the old saying, you've died a hero or live long enough to become the villain.
Mate, exactly what I was going to say.
We're now in that territory. David Moyes is in that territory. It could go either way for him. And if I were him, I'd have one eye on Darna Hero this season. Because if we go into next season and it starts the same way, because there is always a chance of that happening, all depending on the recruitment that happens in the summer. And we know that that's always a 50-50 thing with West Ham. You never know West Ham and our recruitment history. Like, he'll end up leaving under bitter circumstances very early next season if we start badly, and then it'll be like tainted reputation almost. And I think he deserves better than that amongst the fan base and in the eyes of the fan base. But there's large sections of there's large sections of the fan base that would almost forever resent him for whatever they're going to resent him for if he were to leave under those circumstances. That's my mindset at the moment. It's like we're getting into that territory where if he wins something, he'd be better off just leaving.
But is there no, like, who says that if he wins something, he wouldn't go on and, you know, and like in the summer, Declan Rice goes. Honestly, mate, I was looking at that team on Sunday, and we are not far. There is some mustard players in that team. I think it's vital we win the Conference League, because I think, mate, I'm looking at Lucas Paqueta thinking if we can hold on to him, like, as much as people are like worried about Declan Rice going, which he probably is.
We have to win the Conference League to keep Paqueta, don't we, really?
100%, mate. 100%. Obviously, the situation, it looks like Scamacca's just going to be striker number 806 on the burn pile of naff number 9s we've had in the Golden Sullivan era. But, you know, that is what it is, so big. But I was looking at that team, genuinely thinking, you know, if next season, just say Areola finally comes in for Fabianski. Fabianski had another good game on the weekend, I'd just like to add. But if Areola finally comes in for Fabianski, you could probably do with upgrading the left back a bit. Aguerd and Zuma, if Zuma sort of shakes off those persistent knee injuries, he just doesn't look quite the same player. But Aguerd and Zuma, no problem with that centre-half pairing at all. Kufau looked back to his best the other day. People calling for him to get a new contract, even if he's as a backup. So perhaps you upgrade on your right-back options. You find a new version of, obviously, you're going to have to invest in the midfield because Thomas Souček has been doing Thomas Souček things. And you do that. But if you keep Jared Bowen, obviously not Antonio, and then you're going to have to invest in a centre forward. That much is obvious given the situation. Ings is in a long-term option. Antonio is about 2 years out of date now. And Scamacca, it seems something's gone wrong there. And so you need to improve that left wing, because Benrahma, the reason we've done so well the last 2 games, he's barely done anything. But I honestly think we've got some really, really top quality players in that team. And when Declan Rice goes, you'll have the funds to go and do something. I think there's real potential. And I just, as we've seen, Lucas Paqueta is a fine example of that, right? People going, Moyes isn't good enough to handle world-class players like him. But he said after the game, Moyes, that he's really like coming to his own. He's been brilliant, hasn't he? Like, he's been brilliant the last few weeks, on and off the ball. And he's a wonderful player to watch. I loved watching him at close quarters at the weekend. I don't know. You know, what else who else are you going to get as well? I hate that argument normally, but why would you, if you could just accept and it looks a blip, like you said, I don't know why people are just desperate for this change, because who and what's going to do better? What's to say we'll just have another manager like we've had before 1,000 times? I
think the point with having these good players, and I'll make you right on all those points. I think the issue that I've had, and I know a lot of hands have had previously, before, maybe 2 weeks ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, was that, we've got all these really good players, but it's not working. And so that's
a lot of them have been injured all season.
That's why a lot of fans were going, me included, going, he's not the man. He's not the man to manage this level of squad. Maybe he's taken us as far as he can take us, and that's absolutely fine if that's the case. But now it's like, now they've all clicked, and it's like, well, hang on, maybe he is the right man. Maybe
Maxwell Cornet maybe takes that left wing slot.
maybe we don't need to make a change because maybe there are other factors at play which has led to where we are, to being where we are. So it's a dilemma, and I think the question will rumble on until the end of the season, and we finally know what the decision is. But I'm now swaying towards, if he wins it, I want to see him stay because I'm interested just to see how he handles the summer recruitment. So I think that's important, particularly in terms of reinvesting the Rice money, whatever we get for him. It's
definitely
vital that that's spent well.
Yeah.
And when he says he's already planning for next season, I wonder whether that's what he's planning. I like to think they've already got an idea of how they're going to spend that money. But I'd like to think. I mean, it's wishful thinking, but
well, we'll need to absorb the £25 million loss we're going to make on Gianluca Scamacca.
yeah, it's true. But yeah, part of me is going to be like, well, I'd like to see what happens. Whether this was just a blip, I kind of just want to see whether it is him that can take us to that next level again, or whether it isn't. And the only way we do that is if we stick with him and go on then, have one more summer.
Yeah, I just think he deserves it. If he wins a conference,
wins it, 100% deserve it. Yeah.
He deserves it. Yeah, and he's not going to resign because managers don't do that anymore. They like payoffs. It might be if he doesn't fancy it, he might go to the club and say, look, do you want to do a mutual parting of ways, pay me off my contract and I'll get on my bike? But I just don't see it, mate. I don't know where he's going to go. He's not going to Brighton. Brentford aren't taking him. Emery's doing all right at Villa. Is he going to go back to Everton? Really? With the chaos that they're in? I don't think that's a better project than West Ham at the moment. I think he's at his level, mate. I really think he's at his level. And he wins a Conference League and we're in the Europa League again next season. Why would you not? You get some big money for Declan Rice. I think unless there's a huge standout alternative, I just can't see it. I would bet a lot of money that David Moyes is West Ham's manager on the first day of next season.
I think what my last point on it is that when he took over at Everton, he had two very good first two seasons at the club. And then almost took them down.
Yeah.
And then after that, he spent another 8 years consistently finishing in the top 10 of the Premier League, even the top 6, top 7 at times, got them into the top 4. So he had that third season blip at Everton.
Yeah.
And then went on and spent the best part of a decade turning Everton into a very well-established top 8 Premier League football club.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the similarities are like very, very clear to see. So maybe this is just how it happens with David Moyes. If you give him time, is that you have that little blip where almost like a transitional season. But only time will tell. And the only difference is he didn't win a trophy with Everton, so hopefully he changes that with us. But yeah, at the moment he deserves to stay.
Yeah, defo. And I just think there's a lot of people who've forgotten like what West Ham has been about for the last 20 years. Yeah. I just find it really hard at the moment. Anyway, probably done a little bit more on that than expected. The Gent game, Jonesy, brilliant. Really enjoyed it. I think the club, I'm just going to make a point now. I think the club made a huge faux pas with that game. Band 1 tickets was 65 quid.
Done the same for the semis as well, haven't they?
But that, I can sort of get on board with that, maybe. Maybe I can get on board with that because I think more people are inclined to go out to semis. This was a quarter-final, a huge game. But, fans have paid out a lot of money for this competition already this season. It is the tertiary European competition. It's not like we're in the Europa League playing against an enormous European giant like we were last season at the same stage of the competition in Sevilla. 65 quid for a band 1. I'll be honest, I just bought a band 6 ticket in the end. Like, obviously got my season ticket, but I didn't buy them when when it was released to season ticket holders. I didn't buy it straight away, so I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to swap my work around to be able to go. Managed to do that, so bought the tickets last minute. I just bought a band 6 ticket for 15 quid. And as I was buying them, looking where to sit, there was absolutely like 20 odd rows, at the back of the Billy Bond stand at the top, 20 odd rows right on the halfway line, where absolutely no seats whatsoever were taken because they were 65 quid. So I just bought a band 6 ticket and just went and sat right on the halfway line. Excuse me, the seats were high up in the air, but they're not a 65 quid ticket anyway. That's part of the problem. You shouldn't be, just because they're on the halfway line, they're still miles up in the sky, so they shouldn't be band 1 anyway. They should be at least band 2. But for a game like that, I thought it was really poor. Obviously, all the other ticket prices were staggered accordingly underneath that. So 45 quid or whatever it was for a band 2. Our seats are band 3, our normal season ticket seats. So a lot of money they were charging. I think it's just silly. Like, you would have filled that up. If the band 1 ticket was 40 quid and all the other bands underneath that were appropriately priced, you would have filled the ground up, I think.
Yeah.
And the atmosphere was good and I enjoyed the game, but I wanted to make a point about that. I thought it was absolutely foolish. The semi's different, I think, because massive game, obviously. I think you could sort of justify that a little bit more, but no, 65 quid or whatever, band 1 at home to Gent in a quarterfinal of the Europe's 3rd competition. I think you give your heads a bit of a wobble there, those in the ticket office at West Ham. Anything of note then, James? Obviously a bit of a dodgy start. Hugo Kuipers, it was the man who scored in the away leg in the 1-1 that we had in Belgium, scored after 26 minutes to put Gent 1-0 up. You're thinking, oh no, here we go. This is not what we need. They looked like a semi-tidy side again. They looked all right. We never really got into the game. Then all of a sudden, Mikel Antonio gets the equaliser on 37 minutes. Went in at half time, and then obviously we came out and attacked the game a bit, but we score after Lucas Paqueta's penalty on 55 puts us 2-1 up. 8 minutes later it was 4-1. Declan Rice obviously scored his brilliant goal. Antonio added another one, but it just seemed to me like Gent just went, as soon as we equalised, or certainly got Paqueta's goal for 2-1, it appeared like they just went, oh well, that's us out then, and just collapsed, which I thought was really odd.
Yeah, it was a pretty mental 8 minutes in that second half, and you're right. It did feel like they'd almost just accepted that they weren't gonna get back in the game, which was a little bit odd. But at the same time, that particularly in those 8 minutes, we were just relentless. So every attack, just every time we got the ball, and obviously Rice does what he does. And then I think what we hit the bar. I think Souček hit the bar from about 6 yards out. I think it was just before Rice's goal, maybe, or just before the penalty. But it was just a mental second half, really, that no one really saw coming, even at 1-0 at half time. And then it was a bit of a party in there afterwards. I just thought that it was another iconic European night at that stadium. I felt like the place was bouncing, particularly given that we were very incredibly underwhelming in the first leg and the opening half an hour of the second leg, and it was like, this is going to be a bit tough. So by the end of it, the joy on people's faces, it was memories of Sevilla last season. Just people just absolutely delighted and buzzing and proud to be there and proud to be West Ham. It was just a wonderful night all round and a great performance.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I thought it was really good. I can't really add anything to that. Obviously, a sloppy start. Exactly what we did against Arsenal. But yeah, great from there, really. I completely agree. I just think it's a real shame. It didn't take away from it. I think it's a real shame. The club could easily have filled that ground up. But yeah, for those who were there, Jonesy, brilliant stuff indeed. And we've got a semi-final over 2 legs against AZ Alkmaar, of course. The 11th is the home leg, and then the 18th is the away leg in Holland. I mean, how exciting, James? How exciting is it at the moment? Honestly, it's brilliant. I loved it. I had a really, really great week. I've flipping loved it this week. I love West Ham. It was just brilliant. Do you know what I mean? I'm just in a really good mood. Honestly, today I woke up. I've got a horrible cold. I had to go into work first thing this morning, but I'm just in a good mood, and I miss that. I miss it from last season when, like, life was just great because it didn't matter what else was going on. West Ham were doing well, and it was just good fun. It is good fun when West Ham are good.
I feel exactly the same, and like particularly after the Gent game, spent my entire journey into work, into the office, rewatching Declan Rice's goal with the iconic commentary.
Yeah.
Here come the hammers. And just almost just like grinning from ear to ear, people on the train just going, look at this geezer he is, in that case, just smiling at everyone. Steering wheel clear of that weirdo in the corner. But yeah, like I've watched it a million times over, and just like it was the goal that puts 2 clear goals ahead, just puts 3-1 up on the night.
Yeah.
And the limbs, the celebration, the goal, like the joy on the players' face, the joy on the fans' faces, and it just brought everything back from last year. And like that, like took me back to that night in Lyon, the joy that we had then, and just going, we said it last year as well. Just the European night's just so addictive.
Yeah, definitely.
Just want more of it. Don't want it to ever end.
Yeah.
And now we're in another semi-final, and this time it's like, well, if it does end and we don't win this competition, then we're not going to have it next year.
No, that's
an unbearable thought for me at the moment, because I've loved every single minute of the last 2 seasons in Europe. The joy and the memories it's given everyone.
Yeah,
I want that again.
Yeah, I'm with you, mate. I'm with you, and I don't understand that. That's why I don't understand. I found it really difficult the last few weeks to try and get on board with people who just like want to toss the Conference League off. Just like, but winning it gets you back in the Europa League, which is the best season we've ever had. Honestly,
he hasn't been to a single game.
It's not big and muscly, is he? Oh, well, there we go. That's
he hasn't been to a single. I think he may have been to the first group stage game, or maybe in the qualifier. And he was like, "Oh, I'm not going to go again. I'll probably just go to the final if we make it." And I was like, "Mate, you are a disgrace, absolute disgrace."
Yeah. Proper, mate. So I couldn't agree more. Right, the Bournemouth game then, Jonesy. We've obviously done quite a bit of it already, but I'm glad. I was looking forward to this. I'm glad we've got properly stuck into it. We've got a couple of opposition views coming up, but it's not often West Ham scored 8 goals in 2 games. So I want to dwell on it properly. Just all round fantastic. I would just like to add that Mikel Antonio, of course, scored 2 goals at home to Gent and won the opener, of course, away at Bournemouth. 3 goals in 2 games for Mikel Antonio. And I think on this podcast, I'm an advocate of people changing their mind, and especially with the Moyes stuff, there's no need to be stubborn. Just accept that sometimes it's bad. Not everything's black and white, and you just have to move on sometimes. Like you said earlier on, right? A couple of weeks ago, you were sort of quite adamant Moyes wasn't going to be the manager at the end of the season, but you're an open-minded bloke, which is one of the many reasons I like you. And your mind has potentially been changed now. That's normal. I feel like for a functioning society, we should all have a little bit of that. However, one slight little exception to that rule is I still haven't sung the Antonio song since Manchester United away in the FA Cup, when I went all the way up to flipping Old Trafford on a Wednesday night to watch him miss 2 of the biggest sitters I've ever seen in the history of football. Which meant that my team went out the FA Cup unnecessarily at Old Trafford. And I got back at 3:00 in the morning or whatever it was on a Thursday before work the next day for no reason whatsoever. I pledged then in the upper tier of the away end at Manchester United, said to my dad, that's it. I can't believe it. There's no other. My full and complete analysis of that game, the reason we're out the FA Cup, is it's Mikel Antonio's fault. And that stayed with me, and I still haven't sang the Antonio song. And I'm not going to. If he scores the last winner,
2 games, after every goal, still not going to sing it. Still not going to sing it.
I'm not. My dad's sitting there, knows that I've got this pledge. He's belting out Antonio, and I'm like, no, not doing it. Not absolutely refused to. He got subbed off at the weekend, didn't he? Clapping all the fans, all the away end at Bournemouth. No. Not doing it. I don't even think I clapped. It's getting a bit childish and pathetic now, I must admit. But Antonio scored to open the scoring at Bournemouth. I did cheer the goal, I must admit.
I was going to say, did you celebrate it when he scored?
No, I've celebrated all 3 of his goals recently. Yeah. I'm just not staying. I appreciate that. That sort of undermine the stance I'm taking somewhat. But yeah, Antonio opened a scoring. Lucas Paqueta's header, which was my favourite one of all the goals. I know Fornals gets a scorpion kick after Declan Rice nearly broke the net with his absolute thunder rocket. But yeah, it was 3-0 by 43 minutes, 2-0 by 12. Pablo Fornals, really emotional Pablo Fornals, seals it with a scorpion kick after the game. We're talking about on 72 minutes. He was really emotional, celebrating in front of the fans. I loved it. So many fans, it appears, are crying out for Fornals to start ahead of Benrahma. Another wasteful game for Benrahma, but I'm not dwelling on negatives after what a brilliant week we've had. It was just perfect, mate. It was just perfect. You couldn't get any better. 4-0 was a brilliant scoreline anyway. That was a proper thrashing. Could have been 5. Unlucky not to be 5 with the offside. I think Maxwell Cornet put it in the net. Correct me if I'm wrong in the end. Just a complete performance. A perfect performance from everyone. I mean, I say Benrahma wasn't even bad. He just didn't do anything. And when he did, it was just sort of nondescript. But I think we played so well because he barely touched the ball and he was barely involved. Souček was sort of all right. Didn't do anything too bad. Didn't do anything too good either. I think the fact that sort of 2 of our worst players recently were barely involved meant that we played all right. But it was just perfect, mate. Like, no complaints. Well, nothing. It was just a perfect away performance.
Yeah, obviously I wasn't there, so I haven't seen the entire performance. I've only seen the highlights. But yeah, I mean, the pleasing thing I took away from it was that 2 of the goals came from corners, which we've been so dangerous at over the last 2 years.
100%.
But almost non-existent up until the last couple of weeks. We finally looked dangerous at corners, and that was our secret weapon.
Yeah.
So that was really pleasing to see. Fornals' scorpion kick. I mean, only Fornals can score a scuffed scorpion kick. Like, if you look at all of his goals he scored for West Ham, I think he scored like 21 goals. So many of them he's scuffed, and he still managed to score it. And then he scuffs a scorpion kick. It'll win goal of the season, and happy days. But yeah, I mean, on Fornals, I'm just delighted for him that he's managed to get on the score sheet, because there's still a little bit of a mystery as to why he's kind of been phased out the starting 11 over the last 3 or 4 months.
100% it is.
He's never really had a run of bad form. He's one of the few players in that team where you're always going to get 100% out of him, regardless of his confidence.
Definitely.
He chips in with your goal every now and then. He's very, very clearly incredibly dedicated and passionate about the football club.
Yeah.
Evidence in that every time we score, whether it's him or someone else, he's always going absolutely mental in the celebrations on the pitch. Doesn't matter if he scored it or not. Cares about the football club deeply. And so it's been a little bit of a mystery as to why he hasn't been in the team. So for him to come off the bench and score a goal like that as well was pleasing. And I'd like to think that surely it's got to be enough. Like you said, like should be playing them instead of Benrahma. Like, do that on Wednesday night against Liverpool. And he loves to go against Liverpool, to be fair, for now. So I mean,
he does. Yeah, he's got to start. He's got to start.
Good time to play him. But that's another pleasing thing about the result and the performance, is that you've got a player like him that's been able to come in and make a positive impact in a way that he did. And show that, he can still offer something to this team. Show David Moyes that he should still be in the team, playing more minutes. But overall, just superb. It's great to see Declan Rice stepping up over the last couple of games in particular, and really chipping in with those goals he said he was going to score at the beginning of the season. But he's finally scoring them. He's going to score all 12 in the next 5 games or something. He said he wanted to score 12 this season or something. And as you said earlier, Paqueta just really coming into his own now and becoming the £50 million player we thought we bought, finally coming to his own. So I'm buzzing with it. I did, as I said earlier, right at the beginning, I didn't expect us to go there and win 4-0. But it's so pleasing to see us go and do that at a time when we really needed the team to start pulling their fingers out and start putting a run of results and a run of form together. And like I said, I genuinely don't. If we could continue playing like that, not many teams between now and the end of the season will beat us.
No, quite, mate, quite. I mean, Mikel Antonio increasing his Premier League goal tally for the season by a staggering 33%.
It's mad, though, that he's actually our top scorer this season in all competitions with 12.
Well, yeah, but you know what I'm going to say, don't you?
Go on.
Well, he has scored the rest of them in the Conference League against obviously meagre opposition.
No.
Genuinely reckon you could bag a couple in the Conference League group stages. Genuinely do.
I'd like to think so. I mean, I've scored.
We scored at London Stadium before, mate.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So look, you know, the Antonio drum. I just watching him right at the weekend. I refuse to believe that somewhere in the world there isn't a football player, a striker, a professional football player, a striker with very similar physical attributes to Mikel Antonio, but who knows how to be a striker and can shoot at the goal and put the ball in the net, like more than 3 times in a Premier League season, or more than 4 times. Sorry, he's got up to 4.
He scored
4
in 20 last year.
Yeah, but this season he's got 4 in 28, right? And 10's hardly like a huge haul, is it, for a striker, for a centre forward? Just remember that is his position. I just feel like, you know, Marlon Harewood, big Marlon, he was the same sort of thing, wasn't he? Like, you know, fast, powerful, strong. There must be another centre forward out there, but who's better than Antonio, who can control the ball a bit?
I agree to an extent.
There must be. I'm sorry, there must be, James. There must be.
Oh yeah, no, there has to. Of course there is. But I think a lot of people forget that. Oh, yeah, but he don't score enough goals. He's a striker. It's like, well, technically he's not. He's a winger. We bought him as a winger, and then he ended up being our left back. And now he's our striker.
Just hurry up and get him to do the kit.
Expecting him to bang in 30 goals a season all of a sudden. It's like he was never a striker. He never has been.
No. To be fair, I'm not really expecting him to. I'm just bored of watching him play up front. Like I accept that it's not potentially not his fault, but by a person who can do the things that is expected of us. No, but one who actually wants to come, who hasn't been lied to by his agent.
Yeah, true.
That was for the purposes of a joke, by the way. I don't actually know any information in case anyone's listening wants to sue with the podcast. Sorry, I just refuse to believe it. Bring me on. I'm Miss Arnautovic. He was brilliant. I loved him. Get him back immediately. He knew where the goal was and it could actually run the channels and be powerful.
Like
anyway,
40-year-old Arnautovic firing us into the Champions League next season, yeah?
Must got to be better, Antonio. Anyway, not ending on a negative. It's been absolutely brilliant past 7 days from West Ham. Let's hope for more of the same this week. Liverpool at home in the Premier League on Wednesday night, 7:45 kickoff at London Stadium before a lunchtime trip to Crystal Palace, Selhurst Park, 12:30 kickoff on Saturday in the Premier League. I reckon you get if we get 2 points out of that, I'll be reasonably happy. I think if you accept a defeat against Liverpool and then you beat Palace, I think that's brilliant. I think that's a good week there. But let's hope we can continue that mini little unbeaten run we're on. Jonesy